This video is going to be a little different from the others. It's kind of a response to a comment from a friend who suggested I do a video about how to not get discouraged. I don't know if they were mocking me or not, but here's my response to that comment. Welcome to As It Goes Solo. So yeah, I call this time in my life the dark night of the soul, which I feel like is pretty accurate. But I still feel like that's pretty hopeful. It's a signifier that I still have faith. And the suggestion of, to me, the idea that I should make a video on how to be hopeful. I'm not sure how it was worded. I wrote it down, but I'll put a sticker of the comment. It's been the hardest thing in my life to not lose hope. I even made a video about this recently, and it kind of feels mocking for a person to say that. So, first off, I'll start at I'm autistic. And I really feel like, I feel like if you are watching this video, I urge you watch to the end, because this will be the most vulnerable thing I've ever created so far. So, especially if you're someone who's close to me, even if you're new here, if this is your first time to my channel, this will give you a really good idea of what my channel's about. But when I was a kid, people were never there for me. Before my dad even died, he wasn't a part of my family. And when I lived with just my mom, she pretty much always, she gave me video games and cartoons, and she made sure I was in my room and quiet so her and her friends could do drugs. At the time that she had her accident, it wasn't like it was a happy home that I left. And while the situation financially and all that was better where I went, I didn't have my own bed. The circumstances of my childhood, when at the time that my mom had her accident, my new caretakers, they didn't let you really go. I couldn't go to friends' houses. I couldn't have people over. I couldn't play video games. Life was just all steady. And this is just to give you a little backstory. And when I was 14 or 15, my fun uncle gave me an opportunity to live with him. And yeah, of course I took it. I wanted to have my own room, my own privacy, my own sovereignty as a human, something that my present caretakers didn't give me, and I'm still to this day blamed for that decision as the thing that ruined my life or whatever. And I've spoken on a few of these things before, but and in my very first video I talked about how I've recently went through a divorce, but I had my childhood traumas. Everyone has their own shit. I know people who have been in the military, and it's hard to compare my trauma to theirs or anything. So I've went through a lot of really feeling like how I feel wasn't important, and the very few people I have in my life who I am actually able to speak and reach out to, there's this vast chasm of misunderstanding, and it's impossible really to lay your whole life down to kind of explain to a person the things you've been through. And again, I'm calling this the dark night of the soul because deep inside I feel a transformation towards something positive. And I guess if anything, helping me keep hope is the feeling of real positive change I've experienced from within during this time. But it's a thing that people have always, it's a thing that I understand and take responsibility for the things I have done in my life, but I don't feel like and I'll say this forever, I don't feel like I've done anything to deserve to end up in the kind of place that I've ended up in. And so this is kind of my testimony to that, in the last 4 years since I have, and this is, ignoring all the things, like, I kind of told the story about my school, how I accidentally took a knife to school, and that's the reason I didn't go to school, like that. Plus, just childhood decisions, and accidents that sent me to a horrible school. So that's why I don't have any money. Not that would have necessarily, nowadays a degree doesn't stop you from being broke even. But the last 4 years of my life, and even before that, I've always tried my best to be the best human I could possibly be. Everything I've ever done, like every job I've ever had, every relationship I've ever had, I did my best. I tried my best to be a compassionate friend, and even to like a fault. It took me a long time to develop my individuality, because I felt like being selfless was such, and it is. It's a positive trait, but I felt like having any level of selfishness was just wrong. And in the last 4 years, one of the things that kind of spurred this is like, someone was telling me that, like, I'm completely responsible for the things for the last 4 years, and they were telling me that I should get a different job, a better job. And my whole reasoning for not getting a job, because I depend on public transit, didn't want to get a job that was not on the public transit routes, especially because even having a job on the public transit routes wasn't completely reliable. I was still being stranded every other day, showing up for work late every other day, or being stranded on my way to work, not able to show up to work because the public transportation in my city was not operating correctly. And this person's telling me that you never know, you could depend on, like, anything could work out. Like, you could get rides from people, or you could ask these people and those people. And it's been a thing for the last 4 years. My life has been watching people in my same situation, like, they have moms, dads, girlfriends, like the toxic job I was trapped at. Like, one of my friends, as soon as they got a boyfriend, they were like, you don't have to work. So she quit immediately. And then, like, other people, like, if you live with your mom, you can stop being in a toxic job for a couple of weeks and, like, just quit and get another job. But because, like, I've worked with a lot of people who are just like, I hate this, I'm not doing this, I quit. And that's kind of like always been a thing in my life. And autism kind of plays into this a lot, that, jobs drive me insane and cause me to burn out and be fucked up. And I'm not even really allowed to express that to anyone, because, normal people, and that's one of the important parts of my autistic relation to a normal person, is trying to explain that, at work I'm like dying mentally, and everyone's like, well, everyone goes through it. And I'm like, no, I literally cannot do a repetitive task for 10 hours straight. Like, just Robotron. My brain dies. I've done jobs like that multiple times. Anyway, so that's a barrier to my employment. But on top of that, it's been a thing of really, like, putting myself out there the way I have, and, like, like the dating scene is just so like, and my last video kind of hits on the whole feeling of like, as a male with no family, it's like I have no purpose. And I never did. Like, I talked about the Titanic women and children thing. Like, I was a child who would have been left on the Titanic because, like, even as a child, no one ever cared about me. And it's a weird thing. Like, I've been doing all this work on myself. I've completely transformed my personality. And this is one of the things that really upsets me is people tell me that I don't listen to their advice when I've literally top down transformed my whole personality based on, you know, like things that people have told me about myself and trying to take the feedback and criticism from people about my personality, even though it turns out a lot of the stuff was, you know, autistic traits that I couldn't avoid having, or, you know, there was just no way I could like possibly, you know, be better at. I mean, I can work on all those things, but it wasn't just because I was lazy or I was an asshole that I couldn't withstand loud sounds a lot, or I can't, or the fact that it's hard for me to keep a job like that drives me insane and burns me out and gives me absolutely no time off ever. You know, it's a thing. And all the work I have done, although I, like I said, I can see some positive inner growth and my changes with like how I interact with people and how I interact with myself. My outward circumstances have not changed, and it's a thing of being told that I'm not even doing the things to fix my life when, like, it's a thing that I have learned that I have executive functioning issues when it comes to, you know, setting appointments, calling people, and like even cleaning my house. I have extreme trouble with stuff like that. And like, it's not because I'm lazy or stupid, it's because it's like, even with my best intentions, and I have like it's kind of like a sink or swim kind of situation where I'm getting much better at those things, and the YouTube channel has really helped me like get more constant and persistent with trying to keep up with task orientation and goals and functioning and all that. But despite all of that, all the things I've said, I have been so completely unhappy for like, and you know, I could gloss over my whole life, but during this dark time of the soul, dark night of the soul, I think it's the thing that literally I've lived in complete despair and hopelessness. Like, the only thing I live for is the possibility of my situation changing, you know, like, and for a very long time I've done all this work to better my situation and my circumstance. It's not like I just stayed stuck at a dead-end job. I worked my way up to management at this job and like got some, you know, kind of actual recognition at this job. It wasn't just a dead end. It got my feet in the door with management. It was not just nothing. And it's a thing, yeah, I know all these things in myself. And that's like a big part of why this channel even exists. And yeah, I understand that. Like, basically, I appreciate the few people who are watching my videos a lot, but you know, obviously I'm not a big channel, and it's really a thing to feel like I will never really be able to express these things about myself because people just hate me so much for being dark or for being sad all the time. And you know, it's like, it's a thing where when I talk about unaliving myself or something, I have to watch out for other people's triggers around the word, as if like it doesn't matter that I want to stop existing. That's not even an important thing. It's that how people feel about it. Or if I'm sad, it's not about why I'm sad, it's about like, why can't you be better? And then me just even trying to explain my sadness, it just makes me, my existence, a burden to everyone in life. And you know, I'm just supposed to shut up and disappear. And like, what I've kind of learned is like being my authentic self, bringing my sadness. No one wants that around, so I'm kind of like this is a big part of like why I'm even making this video, is because I have so many emotions that I just can't express to anyone because I'm sitting in solitude for years and years, you know, kind of just really facing my own sanity. And I think it's a thing, you know, maybe everyone has this darkness inside of them, and maybe autism and my psychic sensitivities, maybe those are even one thing, but maybe it's because I am so sensitive to literally everything that it's hard for me to turn off the absolute despair, let alone like my life is literally worse than most people that I know, you know, except for homeless people. And yeah, I have gratitude that I'm not homeless, but I'm in constant fear of that because I live in absolute poverty. So like, and it's like a thing. A lot of people who come at me with judgments like these have never, ever even come close to having to deal with the things that I'm having to deal with. And even worse, some of them have. And they come out of it. And I really hope to feel that way someday. Although I'll be way more empathetic to people. And that's basically why I've decided to like dedicate my life to this, through the page, through my life, through when I'm about to go to school for. I really feel like this is a thing, like whatever I'm talking about right now, even though it's not accepted by most of the people who are close to me. It's like I can't help but have to be and embody this entity, this sadness for all time. I don't get a choice to just turn it off because it's triggering to me. I have no choice but to wake up in pure despair every day and hope that something gets better. And so, yeah, like me trying to make a video about like how to not lose hope. Very funny to me. And yeah, I mean, I don't know really if you could like, and I've really thought about this, like I feel hopeless as fuck, but when I talk to other people, it's kind of like they see that, yeah, I actually am not. I guess, you know, I have an incredible amount of faith, and I really think about Job a lot, and the fact that Job lost everything, and you know, I've always had this faith. And so it's a thing, either I'm brainwashed by fairy tales into believing all this magic, mystical shit, and I'm doomed to just die like this, or like there's absolutely no way that I can believe that the entity who created me, that I feel like I have a relationship with, the multiple entities I feel like I have a relationship with, would bring me to a situation like this for absolutely no reason. And if you consider that hope, then it's a thing of trying to remember that, and if you are spiritual, this is easy because you believe in something outside yourself. But even if you are an atheist, I fully believe that, like, whether or not you believe in God, you are God, even as an atheist. Like, whatever energy, whatever spark of life is inside of you is capable of anything. And so even if you're an atheist, if you believe in yourself, if you really believe, it's like a thing, if you just believe in anything, it will keep you alive no matter what, I guess. Even if you don't even really have hope in the thing that you believe in, or discouraged was the word. But yeah, I'm definitely discouraged. But yeah, I've had I've had a bunch of interviews. I'm going back to school. Maybe my spark is coming back a little bit, but right now it's been the worst time of my life for a very long time. I've had nothing to look forward to for a very long time, but the worst feelings. Every moment I breathe, I'm just ready for the end, and it's a thing of, yeah, like, even if the end is death, and that's kind of a thing, like, my cousins called the police on me the other week because I was telling them that I wanted to unalive myself. And obviously, that's kind of a part I missed in the story. And whatever, this can get very long. One of the reasons I didn't get therapy, which is one of the things that people reflect on me a lot. And it's a thing that I eventually got 2 therapists, and they both ghosted me. And eventually, I mean, the work that I did to fix myself, I got from a licensed therapist, but on YouTube, which is kind of like why YouTube is so important to me, because I couldn't even get a really good therapist. And, you know, as far as being on a waiting list and waiting and shopping, like, I'm ready, like, I'm tired and done with life right now, not in 6 months, and like I need to do the necessary things to fix my life. And so like I learned the techniques from watching tons of mental health YouTube channels, which, you know, I really suggest if you have access to therapy and can get a good therapist. And kind of keep in mind, it's not like a silver bullet. And it's not a one-size-fits-all thing, and that you may have to shop around to find a therapist that's good enough. I would still say it's very good to get therapy, but if you don't have access to that, please, like, there are resources out there that you do have access to, but without getting too far from the topic, because this has already been maybe one of the, I'm not looking at a time thing, but I'm assuming this is one of my longest videos. When I was a kid, when I lived with my second family, the ones that actually gave me human freedom, they still took advantage of me in horrible ways and treated me like crap. They pretty much only let me live with them so they could get my benefits checked, so they could be able to afford more drugs. You know, that's because none of that, basically hardly any of that money did anything to benefit me in any way. And anytime I got in trouble, I was threatened with being sent back to the home of the innocents. It was never just like a normal life. It was like every relationship I've ever had since I was born was conditional. It was like, just know that if I don't love you enough, I'll throw you in the trash, bitch. Please watch this. I hope you're watching this video. I feel so alone. And that's basically why I'm making all these videos right now, is because like I really don't really have another reason to even exist. But when I was living with them, there was this time where it was a hot summer day, and I was like coming home from school or something. I don't remember what happened, but I went to open the door at my house, my glass screen door, and it shattered all over me, and I was in shock. And of course my uncle, you know how, I mean, and yeah, being a parent now, yeah, I would go off too. Yes, totally get it. But I was trying to explain to my uncle it was a heat, glass thing. This had happened. This had happened to me when I was a kid. When I was like 3. This is how I learned that heat would shatter glass, is because one day my patio door just shattered for no reason. And I was 3 then, incapable of shattering a giant pane of glass, so I didn't get blamed for it then. But when this happened to me, I knew that's what it was. It was just a hot day. And they were like, we're going to send you to get a psychological evaluation. I'm tired of this shit. And they sent me to my therapist. I had been seeing this therapist for like a long time, and this is another big part of the story I left out. The reason, like, I hadn't been diagnosed with autism or anything is because when I was a little kid, my mother forced me to pretend I had mental illness issues so she could get a check. And, you know, that was a beautiful childhood, beautiful piece of my childhood I rarely reminisce about. You know, riding the short bus and being in the BD class just so my mom could smoke more crack. And, like, if I even had any, like, actual intellectual disabilities in real life, we couldn't know that because I was, like, you know, too busy forcing myself to be extra autistic so my mom could get paid. And so, yeah, therapy was just already a super traumatic thing for me as a child because it was something that I was forced to do when I didn't need it, and, like, forced to pretend I need it just to exploit me so my mom could get money. And so when I eventually entered back into therapy as a teen, I had a whole different perspective about it and thought they were trying to help me. And this particular therapist I'd been working with for like 2 years or so. And I really trusted him. I told him everything. I really trusted him. So, like, when I went in front of him and he's like, "Why'd you break the screen door and all this?" And I was like, "I didn't. It was, you know, heat." Like, and if it was these days, I could have pulled it up on my phone. Look, this is what happens when a screen door gets hot. They're like, we're gonna go ahead and send you for a 3-day detainment in the psychiatric facility, which ended up being 27 days. I spent 27 days in the same clothes because I thought I was getting out at any time, but my uncle fucking abandoned me there and in a mental hospital just because a piece of glass fucking broke on me. That's why I started smoking cigarettes, the trauma from that event. And that's a funny thing about, I didn't fall into cigarettes just because it was a fun thing to do when I was a kid. It was that, like, my anxiety was so incredibly insane from, like, the shit I had to go through as a kid. Like, I needed something to deal with the continuous anxiety of, like, having to live with a person who would just put me in prison because they needed a break and that I had no one else. And so, yeah, all of that, and this is really for one person. All of that bleeds into, like, my need to have someone or hope to have someone eventually, or the alternative, okay? Which maybe, you know, you see me as a needy person because I say I want someone, but it's the thing that I'm cool with being dead as well because, like, the whole point is I'm just tired of feeling this way always. And whether that means I find someone that actually makes me feel belonged or like I have a reason to exist, or I just stop existing because what's the point? And, like, yeah, pretty discouraging. And this is a pretty depressing video. So, sorry about that. But, love you guys. And stay mindful. Even if it's evil and fucked up. Love you.